How are you feeling, Amanda?
Oh, I'd rather be in a paddock than here, but anyway.
Well, I'm sure most of us would rather be in a paddock, but it's lovely to have you here today. So for now, I know that you've prepared some of your story to tell us today, so we'll just quietly just remind everyone that we're filming and that if you could be quiet whilst Amanda very eloquently tells us her story.
Thank you. To understand why my dad's VAD experience matters, you need to understand who he was. Dad grew up in a small country town. He left school early, bought a farm, married a young nurse. Together they raised 3 kids. He worked hard running the farm, shearing in the summer, fencing in the winter. He was super fit, ruggedly tough. He fought fires in the high country, carried the terrible job of culling truckloads of starving animals during the drought. He planted trees, thousands of them, because he aimed to leave the land better than how he found it. He taught us to work hard, treat people fairly, stand up for the underdog. Quietly, he championed people with disabilities, Indigenous people, and those less fortunate. Not because it was PC or fashionable, because Dad was decent to the core. At 64, Dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He underwent a Whipple procedure where a surgeon removed half his pancreas, part of his small intestine, his gallbladder, bile duct, and part of his stomach. He came home from hospital insulin dependent and with a feeding tube. A few weeks after surgery, he undertook 6 months of gruelling chemotherapy. His surgeon told him he'd never regain full fitness or strength. He might never lift more than 5 kilos, but Dad, being Dad, proved him wrong. Just 18 months later, he was back riding 70 kilometres a day on his bike and leg pressing a whopping 470 kilos. Life was good again. Unfortunately, pancreatic cancer is relentless and it returned. The oncologist told us that chemotherapy might buy him more time, but there was no curative option. Dad declined treatment. Dad had seen his 54-year-old brother die from the same disease, so he knew what lay ahead. For him, his cancer fight was no longer about living longer. It had become about dying with dignity. The oncologist referred Dad to palliative care. A nurse visited the house. During that appointment, the nurse gave Dad a card with the VAD navigator details on it, but there was no meaningful conversation. At first, Dad set it aside. He still felt well. His cancer progressed rapidly and soon he was fragile, skin and bone, could hardly eat or drink and had limited mobility. Mum would help him in and out of the shower or the bath. One day, I literally lifted him off the toilet floor. Tears in his eyes as I got him back into bed. Dad's days became pure physical and mental anguish. A long, slow, painful death is a torturous cruelness that I cannot describe. Eventually, he'd had enough and he asked me to call the VAD navigator. To my shock, I was told that we'd missed the window. We'd missed the window for a couple of reasons. As Dad was too unwell to swallow, he needed physician-assisted VAD, and that wasn't available in our region. Also, palliative care estimated that he'd only live 6 more weeks, and I was told the VAD process would outlast him. How could a postcode or timing decide whether someone could access their legal end-of-life option? That's when Dad decided that he would end his own life. And he started calculating his physical capability or capacity to do so. As a farmer, Dad was always practical about life and death. He knew when you could save an animal and when the humane choice was to end its suffering. That's how he farmed, and that's what he deserved for himself. In sheer desperation, I turned to Google and I found Dying with Dignity Victoria. I found Jane. Her warmth was genuine. She felt like a lifeline. She said she would help, and she sure tried. Unfortunately, the help Jane could offer meant travelling to Melbourne, and although she'd arranged a volunteer flight, Dad was too sick to travel. He was so thankful, but declined. Again, he was left with two options: die suffering or take his own life. In a strange twist of fate, and with the ever-changing nature of cancer, after a short stay in hospital, Dad regained the ability to swallow. He saw this as a window of opportunity. He could try again to access VAD. This meant 3 exhausting in-person medical appointments. Getting Dad bathed, dressed and in the car was no mean feat. Finally, 4 weeks later, he got approval. The approval was drawn out and involved me contacting a lawyer to represent Dad. With the approval, there was relief, but it was really short-lived. We were told that because we live in regional Victoria, it would take 5 days for the medication to arrive. Dad said he couldn't wait 5 days. He described his situation as living in hell. Desperate again, I went back to Dying with Dignity Victoria, and Cam McLaren advocated for Dad. And we got a call to say the medication would arrive in 2 days. They were 2 great days. Dad's fear was gone, there was calm and ease. He had a plan that was right for him. 2 pharmacists delivered the medication, and they explained the process, answered our questions and treated Dad with real warmth and kindness. Within 20 minutes of the pharmacist leaving the farm, Dad was gone, peacefully, on his own terms. In the end, Dad didn't die from suicide. He died from pancreatic cancer, but voluntary assisted dying spared him the very worst of it. Without VAD, a good man would have taken his own life, and that's the brutal truth. When I look back over our VAD journey, the most painful moment for me was when Dad told me a member of palliative care visited him in hospital and expressed their opposition to VAD and suggested that my advocacy for him equated to me hastening his death. What they didn't respect was that accessing VAD was Dad's choice, not mine and certainly not theirs. I think there is real irony in the fact that at the very same time I was advocating for Dad's right to VAD, I was also writing to his surgeon asking for surgical options and staying up in the middle of the night, desperately searching for a treatment that might save him. I wanted my dad to live. Dad wanted to live, but pancreatic cancer took that from us. After Dad died, people have commented that it must have been an honour to have cared for him in those last months. So the truth is, it wasn't an honour, it was torture. As time goes by and I look back, advocating for my dad to access VAD and mixing the drink that finally ended his suffering, that was the honour.
Wow. Amanda, thank you. You say writing comes easily to you. I'm so glad that you were able to write that and share that with us today. There's so many aspects of your story that really do resonate with us here today. A couple of things in the background of your dad was the fact that he'd already been through this before with his brother.
Yeah. So his brother had pancreatic cancer as well, and survived 4 months post-diagnosis. But I guess the key thing was in those very final stages of my uncle's death, Dad was able to be with him and witness that. And with that created a lot of fear for my dad around what his death was going to look like. And he didn't want the same for himself.
Yeah, it'd be unlikely that it would be much different, would it, the way those diseases progress?
Yeah, he was going down the exact same path.
So unusual, 2 people in the same family.
Well, pancreatic cancer has a genetic link, so Yeah.
Some areas that I thought were really, sad for you and hard for you is obviously your location.
Yeah, so we're only a couple of hundred k's from Melbourne, but as you know, I think it's 60% of the VAD health professionals are living within 4% of the state. So it leaves these people outside of Melbourne pretty isolated, and it means that you have to travel to access VAD or wait a significant amount of time to be able to get in with a local doctor.
What I felt listening to your story just now is the fact that you had to navigate so much for him and in such a very difficult time of your life. Obviously trying to care for him, but also navigate a system that included having to have 3 face-to-face meetings in order to get the approval.
Yeah, so early on, Dad attempted to navigate it himself. He spoke to his GP, and his GP discouraged him and said that he didn't need to access it, that he would be able to keep him comfortable until the end. But as Dad's health declined, he realised he still had quite a bit of time to live, and he certainly wasn't comfortable. So he knew he was in trouble, and I guess that's when he leaned on me to step in. But I mean, I'm my father's daughter. He had taught us to step up for the, advocate for people. So I just did what I needed to do.
He then deteriorated very quickly, didn't he? And you're concerned that after these 3 face-to-face meetings that, it was then going to take time for this medication to get to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dad continued even after the 3 doctor's appointments. Once they had been concluded, he continued to do the daily calculation around his physical capability to suicide. He was very fearful that the medicine wouldn't arrive because it had been such a tough journey to get it.
It's very powerful that he was afraid of another obstacle. You write in your notes that he was concerned that something might happen that would stop him once that medication arrived.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that played into why, when the pharmacist delivered the medication and they left the farm, within a couple of minutes he said, right, let's do it now. And I believe that if we hadn't have had so many obstacles and he wasn't fearful that it was taken away, that perhaps he would have been with us for a bit longer. He was scared that something else would intervene. Yeah.
So you are your father's daughter, bringing this very brave story into the public forum in an event like today at Parliament House. What do you think you would like to achieve from this, and what does it make you think about your dad?
Well, what I would hope is that people, I'm just one person, and what I'm hoping is that people that do make decisions for our state can hear my story and learn from it. That's what I hope.
Thank you so much for sharing today. It was just an incredible story, and you're very brave, and
Thank you.
we really thank you for being here today.
Thank you.